For 5 centuries, European healers turned to a single small plant to silence the worst winter coughs. In 1542, the German botanist Leonhart Fuchs catalogued it in his landmark Herbal De Historia Stirpium, noting its documented use against chest complaints across Central Europe. By the 1600s, French physicians had named it thé d'Europe, the tea of Europe, a designation that carried genuine medical authority. A review published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology traced Veronica officinalis across more European medicinal texts than almost any other common woodland plant of its era. This was not a luxury herb of royal gardens. It grew wild along forest paths, at meadow edges, in the gaps nobody cultivated. Then a more profitable alternative arrived, and Speedwell vanished from the pharmacy shelf. Its name is Veronica officinalis, Speedwell, a plant still growing beneath our feet today. If forgotten botanical history speaks to you, subscribing keeps this knowledge alive. New plants, old truths, every week. And stay until the end, because the reason Speedwell disappeared from medicine is stranger than the plant itself suggests. Veronica officinalis is a low-growing perennial herb native to Europe and Western Asia. It belongs to the plantain family Plantagenaceae, reclassified from the older Scrofulariaceae in modern taxonomy. Its leaves are oval, slightly toothed, and covered in fine soft hairs that hold morning dew. Its flowers are pale blue-violet, tiny, four-petaled, arranged in dense upright spikes above the foliage. The plant rarely exceeds 30 centimeters in height. But what it lacks in stature, it compensates in resilience. It tolerates poor soils, dry conditions, partial shade, and cold winters without complaint. Speedwell is a perennial. It does not ask permission to return each spring. Its creeping stems root at each node, spreading quietly across the forest floor. The plant flowers from May through August, depending on latitude and elevation. It colonizes woodland clearings, hillside meadows, and roadsides with equal ease. In botanical classification, it is described as a hemicryptophyte, surviving dormancy with growth buds at soil level. Biology designed it for persistence. The system never fully accounted for that. Speedwell entered European medical literature not as folklore, but as documented professional practice. Nicholas Culpeper, the 17th-century English herbalist, described it as a remedy for coughs, asthma, and pulmonary complaints in his Complete Herbal of 1653. John Gerard's 1597 Herbal listed it among plants valued for respiratory conditions across multiple European traditions. In Germany, Speedwell was sold in apothecaries well into the 18th century under the name Ehrenpreis. The Swiss physician Albrecht von Haller referenced it in botanical surveys of medicinal alpine flora. The species epithet officinalis carries legal weight. It signified official status in historical pharmacopoeias. Not every plant earned that designation. Only those with sustained documented therapeutic history received it. Speedwell earned it simultaneously across multiple countries and medical traditions. The record was unambiguous. The plant worked consistently enough to be trusted across generations. Then the 20th century rewrote the rules of what constituted legitimate medicine. Paper documentation and centuries of practice counted for nothing against a patented molecule. Speedwell contains a suite of bioactive compounds that help explain its historical reputation. Aucubin, an iridoid glycoside, is among its primary documented constituents. The plant also contains catalpol, another iridoid glycoside detected in multiple Veronica species analyses. Tannins contribute astringent properties historically associated with soothing irritated respiratory tissue. Flavonoids, including luteolin and apigenin derivatives, add antioxidant character to the plant's phytochemical profile. A 2013 paper in Natural Product Research detected significant iridoid concentrations across multiple Veronica species samples. The European Medicines Agency assessed Veronica officinalis formally in 2012, acknowledging its traditional use classification. The chemistry is not arbitrary. Evolution rarely produces molecular complexity without ecological function. None of these compounds are patentable in their natural form. None could be isolated, synthesized, and sold as an exclusive proprietary product. That distinction, not the science, determined the plant's economic fate. The molecules existed freely in nature, available to anyone willing to walk a forest path. The decline of Speedwell as a medicinal plant followed a precise economic logic. The early 20th century saw the systematic replacement of botanical remedies with synthesized patentable compounds. Pharmaceutical investment required exclusivity. A wild plant growing across a continent offered none. It could not be owned, packaged, or sold at scale with proprietary margins intact. The regulatory environment shifted to require expensive clinical trials, a process no wild herb could self-fund. Speedwell had no corporate sponsor. It had only 500 years of documented use. The numbers tell a disturbing story. By mid-century, it had disappeared from most national pharmacopoeias across Western Europe. It became invisible, not because it failed, but because profit disappeared from its story. The distinction is critical. Obsolescence and erasure are not the same process. One occurs when something stops working. The other occurs when it stops generating revenue. History does not record the precise moment Speedwell was removed from official medicine. It simply stopped being mentioned, and the silence was never questioned. Speedwell still grows where industry forgot to look. Since the Pleistocene, Veronica species colonized disturbed habitats with consistent efficiency. Forest edges opened by fire or wind, those are Speedwell's preferred entry points. Ecologists classify it as a pioneer species in secondary succession, among the first to return after soil disturbance. Its pollination strategy is precise. The flowers close at night and during rainfall to protect pollen. Despite their small size, the blooms attract bees, hoverflies, and native ground-level pollinators reliably. The seeds disperse through animal contact, a mechanism unchanged for thousands of years. Speedwell does not wait for conditions to become ideal. It operates in the margins, the places monoculture agriculture systematically leaves behind. The plant covers hillsides in Scotland, spreads through Polish oak forests, appears along Appalachian ridgelines. 5 centuries of human use left no mark on its genetic complexity. Wild abundance survives at the edges of the system, not within it. Veronica officinalis is a straightforward plant to establish in any temperate garden setting. It thrives in well-drained, slightly acidic to neutral soils with moderate fertility levels, full sun to partial shade. The plant adapts to both, without significant loss of vigor. Seeds sown directly in spring or early autumn into prepared soil germinate within 10 to 21 days. Optimal germination occurs at 15 to 20 degrees Celsius with consistent moisture. Once established, Speedwell requires no irrigation beyond natural rainfall in temperate climates. Its creeping habit makes it an effective ground cover for slopes prone to erosion. Divide established clumps every 2 to 3 years to maintain plant vigor and spread. It provides continuous ground-level habitat for beneficial insects throughout the summer months. Companion planting with Speedwell increases pollinator diversity measurably in productive vegetable gardens. The plant does not dominate. It fills gaps without displacing established species. A garden with Speedwell carries more than ornament. It carries 5 centuries of botanical memory. Speedwell persists, where the industrial system forgot to enforce absence. It covers Scottish hillsides, spreads through Polish forests, appears along Appalachian ridgelines unbothered. 5 centuries of human dependence left no scar on its chemistry or its will to return. It survived the apothecary era, the Industrial Revolution, and the pharmaceutical century simultaneously. History reveals a consistent pattern. Plants with no commercial value accumulate the most uninterrupted botanical record. Speedwell was never bred for shelf stability, never harvested at industrial scale. That is precisely why its chemical complexity remains intact, unmodified by selection pressure. Monoculture agriculture simplifies. Wild abundance diversifies without permission. The pharmaceutical century measured a plant's worth in patents and proprietary claims. Speedwell had neither to offer. And yet it outlasted every branded product that once competed for the same symptom. The plant holds a record no laboratory created and no company owns. Grow it at the edge of the garden. Observe it through its full season. The quiet plants remember what the loud industries chose to forget. And history returns, one small blue flower at a time.